call the meeting back to order. We were previously convened into closed session. This will be our community engagement portion of the meeting tonight, but we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance a little early. So those of you who are able, please stand. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll move on to the community engagement portion of the meeting tonight. And up for discussion is the topic of our strategic plan for 2025 through 2030.
Well, I guess I could start it off by just giving a framework of where we began all back in the day. We started back in September with our first meeting of the strategic plan committee, and there are the names of the folks that were on the committee, 20-some folks, board plus school staff plus community members. We met a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 times over the course of the fall, into the winter, into the spring. When we got into the spring, it got a little sketchy in regards to our calendar, because it's hard to get a lot of people in the room in spring. Yes, it's tough. In the middle of that, we did a focus group with all of our staff. We had about 95% of our staff were able to participate. Probably more towards 85-90, because not all support staff were able to participate in the focus groups. We gathered feedback from them, which the community saw. We did a community survey in the month of January, which the committee saw the results of. And our last meeting of strategic plan committee was June 30th. And then over the course of July and August, the administrative team took the lead in regards to taking the framework of strategic plan draft and added the meat to the bones, so to speak, by creating goals and matched with measurable objectives, which could determine whether you've met those goals. The beautification of the product that you see here was Tracy and Amanda and Becky. It was certainly not me that put that together. So what you see tonight, the draft version of that was put together by a lot of different people. So that's my long-winded introduction to the strategic plan.
Well, I don't think that was very long-winded. I think that summed it up quite well, because it was a lot of work and a lot of time that went into this, and a lot of meetings that went into preparing this. It was something that we agreed at our first meeting that it was something that we wanted to have as a living document, something that wasn't just going to be put in a binder and then not looked at again. I would say, I can only speak for myself as a board member. The Vision 2020 kind of got sidetracked, I think, with COVID, and I probably wasn't as efficient as I could have been myself as a board member going back and looking at our strategic plan to make sure that we were following those things. This one, having a hand in helping design it and seeing through the process, I'm hoping this will be a lot more user-friendly for the board and the staff and our administration, and that we can revisit this often and make sure that we stay on track.
Well, each month we'll come back with a report on a piece of the strategic plan. We're not going to do a full-blown presentation on all points, but each month we'll come back in the same way we do with building and grounds. So next month we'll tackle a piece of it.
Yeah, I think the pillars that were broken out, grow, engage, belong, and invest, was formed by the totality of the committee kind of coming up with things that we agreed was a common recurring theme throughout the community survey, the staff focus groups, and our evaluations of ourselves. So I think this really hits the nail on the head of where we're trying to go. And I appreciate the work of the administrative team really taking the lead on all of the feedback and putting together a really nice packet for us. So Tracy's back there, I know but she did put in a lot of work, and we appreciated that. So I'm done with it now.
We're aware.
She's retired and doesn't want to look at it again.
Well, I'm not sure how you want me to proceed. There is a PowerPoint that reflects the document. I'm not sure if you want to do feedback or how, but I'm prepared
I think if you have a PowerPoint, we'd like
Okay.
to see that, and then
Let's do
maybe the community, we don't have a large audience here tonight, but a couple people that are here would be nice to have them
Okay.
weigh in if they would like to, or at least know a little bit
Sure.
more.
So the beginning of it, after the committee members slide, the four categories, I guess, of the strategic plan, the four focal points: grow, engage, belong, and invest. Within each of those, you'll see, in most cases, comments in regards to what would be the goal of staff, what would be the goal of students, what would be the goal that would address how the board would fit in, or how the community would fit in that particular area. So you'll see how it comes together. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see under grow, we have students, staff, and families. And I'm not one to read slides to folks because that's sort of redundant. You can read them yourself. Basically what we're seeking to do, and I'll paraphrase, for students, we want to empower every learner to reach their full potential. We want to foster continuous learning, data-informed decision-making for staff, and lastly, we want to strengthen the bridge between home and school through open communication with families. So we want to grow, and those would be three ways that we can grow using really our three biggest stakeholders: our students, our staff, and our families. In the area of engage, you'll see the very same three groups that we want to work through. And in regards to engagement for students, we want to prioritize personal learning pathways that can look a variety of different ways with our ever-changing world. Enhance staff engagement and effectiveness through increased communication for staff. Communication was a theme that ran through most of the results that we garnered. And lastly, with families, empower families by expanding opportunities for active involvement. And again, that's a communication piece. Engage, that continued. We have the community and the Board of Education are also groups through which we want to channel this work. For the community, we want to build a robust partnership with them. We do a variety of things, particularly at the high school, with connections between kids and workplaces. And lastly, the Board of Education, we want to cultivate an open, honest, and consistent path of communication with the community. I'll take comments or questions right after we're done with the four groups, so to speak. For investment, with our students, we want to invest in the future-oriented academic learning by allocating resources for student success. For staff, we want to strategically utilize resources to obtain and retain staff. For the community, we want to expand opportunities for community members to actively engage with the schools. And lastly, as a board, to maintain financial health, efficient facilities, dedicated staff, and effective policies that foster an equitable learning opportunity for everybody. And then lastly, belong. This category of strategic plan work, we have students, staff, families, and community. For students, we want to foster a safe, supportive, and responsive learning space. For staff, we want to cultivate a positive, collaborative culture. For families, we want to promote a sense of family belongingness. And lastly, community, increase opportunities to partner with our local community and businesses. So that would probably be, in the presentation, a logical place to stop and gather feedback or have questions be answered. If there is any, I can certainly forward John if you want me to.
Yep. Megan, you probably were the only administrative staff person that wasn't involved in this. You came to the party late, but I know that you've had experience in creating these yourself. So I know you weren't there. So if you have questions, for sure, it wasn't because you weren't listening. It's just you weren't here. So
No, I appreciate that. I will say that the admin team kept me up to speed as quickly as possible when we talk about the measurable objectives and some of those key, how do we define these areas. So more well versed than you think right now.
All right.
These guys took care of me,
fantastic.
but thank you.
I expect nothing less than from our admin team. They're pretty good at communicating with others. So that's good.
So the strategic goals within each of those areas, that's where really the rubber meets the road. And with strategic goals, there's also measurable objectives, because you can write any kind of SMART goal you want to. SMART goal being strategic, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound. You can write any kind of goal you want, but if you don't have anything by which to measure its success, it's just a goal sitting there out in isolation. So there are measurable objectives that go with each of these that have concrete data. The strategic plan goal number one, there are 5 areas in which we have goals. Successful students, so we're empowering every learner. As you already saw, we're trying to prioritize personal learning. We're seeking to foster a safe, supportive, and responsive environment. And lastly, trying to set up the future of academic learning, whatever that may look like in the days to come as a public school. So those are all the goals for students within strategic goal number 1. That second strategic goal, we want to have an effective and engaged staff. So you're already starting to see overlap. The 4 areas of the strategic plan are now becoming strategic goals. Again, the difference is we're now adding measurable objectives to it as well. So we're seeking to foster a culture of continuous learning, enhance staff engagement and effectiveness, cultivate a positive culture, and lastly, strategically utilize resources to obtain and to retain high quality staff, which clearly is never been harder than it is right now. That third strategic goal is to involve and engage families, strengthen the bridge between home and school, empower families by expanding opportunities for their involvement, and promote a family belonging throughout our entire learning process. That fourth goal, and then I will take a break, I think it would make sense right after this one, I believe. For strong community partnerships, expand opportunities for community members to actively participate in the district, build robust community partnerships, and lastly, increase opportunities to partner with local community members and businesses. And that, you can move on to the next slide. The fifth strategic plan, this is where your work is. We've had a couple of opportunities to engage. One meeting specifically designed for just that, a conversation by board about strategic plan priorities, as in what matters most to you. What have you seen from our focus group results? What have you seen from the school perception survey? And what have you heard from the people involved? This is your opportunity, as was that evening, to demonstrate what your highest priorities were. So what you're about to see here was authored by me as a start point. It's still draft form. I didn't feel it would be best to put you in a position to sit here to wordsmith this entire document in open session. I think we would probably be here for a couple of hours. If the truth be told, you've already done much of that wordsmithing. You've already shared your thoughts. You did that in a specific meeting about that topic, and this took place some 4 or 5 months ago. So, the efficient and accountable Board of Education, there are 4 goals here. The first of which is about academic excellence. The group said, the group meeting, the strategic plan committee said, it would be hard to have a strategic plan without academic rigor being one of the goals. And it is, after all, the very most important thing we do. No matter what the school perception survey said, or the focus group said, academic rigor's gotta be at the top of the list. And if the truth be told, in both of those cases, people said academic rigor needs to be at the top of the list. Community said that, and the focus group results said that. So the first goal from the Board of Education would be, if you wanted to go this direction, prioritize delivering a rigorous, engaging, and equitable education that empowers every student to achieve academic excellence and be well prepared for future success. So how do you measure that? So we just did a school perception survey, call it 24-25. We did it in January of 25. If we did, and this would lead us to the conclusion that we should, do another school perception survey and do that in 29-30, there is a question in the school perception survey that speaks directly to this. By 2029-2030, the district will increase by 5% the number of respondents who state they agree with the statement that the district, and this is right from the school perception survey, delivers a high quality education, as measured by the school perceptions community survey. The reason it's 5%, you'll see the others are 10%, the other 3 goals, because we're already quite high on this. The community via the school perception survey has indicated the district is doing a good job at that. So to increase it by 10 might be unrealistic. Remember, a SMART goal, one of the parts of the acronym is it needs to be realistic. You can't go to 104 percentile. We're already in the 70s or 80s on this measure. So the second, and again there are 4, enhance the district's communication by implementing clear, consistent, and timely two-way channels that keep families, staff, and the community informed, engaged, and confident in district initiatives. So how do you measure that? Again, if you did a school perception survey in 29-30, it would read by 2030, The district will increase by 10% the number of respondents who state they agree with the statement that the district communicates with me effectively as measured by the School Perceptions Community Survey. The second, third, and fourth goals that you see here are the 3 areas where the board on the School Perception Survey received their lowest marks. This is one of those 3. So we took the results from the School Perception Survey and made it our priority because they want you to do better. They want us to do better as a whole. Communication is a theme that came up repeatedly through our conversations. The third goal, demonstrate unwavering commitment to the district's success by making informed, student-centered decisions and taking proactive actions that foster excellence in education and community trust. Again, if you did a school perception survey in 2930, it increased by 10% the number of respondents who state they agree with the statement that the district has a school board who is doing doing what it takes to make our district successful as measured by the School Perceptions Community Survey. So again, these are one of the areas where you receive your 3 lowest marks as a board. Because remember, on the School Perception Survey, it specifically said, this is my advice for the school board. And this would be one of the bits of advice. The fourth and last of those goals within your category, again in draft form, ensure responsible, transparent, and strategic management of district funds to maximize resources, students support student success, and maintain public trust. On the School Perception Survey in 2930, it could be increased by 10% the number of respondents who state they agree with the statement that the district is managing funds appropriately as measured by the School Perceptions Community Survey. So again, link back to data that is measurable and is attainable. And I believe that's the last for that batch of slides. If you go to the next slide, I can verify if that's
We're
true.
just at the end.
There it is. So those were the 4 goals. Again, they are draft form, and the only reason that they are draft form here before you is it's your decision. And second, I didn't want you to have to do it from scratch. I don't think that would have been realistic. And you've already done your work. You already met. And those were your declared priorities back when we talked as a group, as a board at that time. So I believe you said that was the last slide. I don't remember if that's the last one.
It is.
That is the last one. So if people have comments, questions, feedback, I'll do my best. The administrative team was as heavily involved as anyone on the meat, on the bones, the measurable objectives. They did that work way more than I did.
Yeah, I want to thank you for putting the draft of the board goals together. This really summed up a lot of our lowest marks on the school perception survey and a lot of what we've discussed at our own meetings when we've talked about what those goals were when we met as a board. Last year, when Gwen joined us on the board, we had a meeting in August that talked about what our goals were for each of us as a board member and what we would like to see accomplished in the district. And I've been a little hesitant. We held off a little bit doing that personally this year because we have 2 new board members and Gwen's only been on a year. So it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes you don't exactly know what those are until you have been in it a little bit longer to know what the state of the district is. So I plan on doing that again. I think that this is a great jumping off point. What I would like to talk about, or at least think about when we move forward with these goals, I think that the measurable objectives are wonderful. But they are all based on the school perception surveys.
For your portion, for the portion in the other
Yes.
areas, some of it is, and
Yeah.
it's connected up.
I'm just talking about the board goals.
Right.
And so, again, we've talked about this, that perception is reality and how the community views things is reality. Although I would like to see a little more teeth, especially in the area of efficient and accountable for the Board of Education and prioritizing, delivering rigorous, engaging, and equitable education. We talk about that 5% number of respondents who state they agree with the statement that the district delivers a high-quality education. And how is that, we want to, of course, the community to see that, but how do they see that? Do they see that based on the state report card? And Jess, I'm gonna use you for a moment because I see you were just doing a lot of work with the state report card overhaul. And we've noticed that we haven't met those goals that we typically have. I think even as a board member, I'm only gonna speak for myself as a board member, feeling like that we're not measuring up there. Is there been some work done at the state level to kind of revamp that? How is that going?
There has. So there was a group of 26 of us educational leaders who met in Madison this past week, part of the panel, 2025 report card panel, and we discussed cut scores. So it was full days of looking at different profiles of school, understanding how the economically disadvantaged profile, your achievement versus your growth, kind of the metrics that go into that system. And so the scores that we recommend for consideration for your report card scores, the cut scores is what they're called, those are going to Dr. Jill Enderly this week for either her approval or her adjustment. The school report card is something that we do measure our success by. And so I think we have a lot of individual conversations about all the great things that we do with our kids that aren't reflected in that report card, right? So much of just who they are and how we grow them. And it's unfortunate that a big marker of our success is that report card. And so while some might not agree with the metrics or where we land, it is a reflection of a system that's been built that we have to play by those rules. And so how do we get ourselves to be successful on that as well?
But I think it's important to point out that our scores are exceeding expectations on the district report.
District.
So it says as a district we exceed expectations. Our score puts us at about the top 25% of districts in the state. The goal that we've written and the reason that we chose this district report card to help measure academic achievement and growth is because it does take all the schools into one, as opposed to, because we all have different buildings with different report cards, but it merges that into one. And it also looks at 3-year averages of achievement, 3 years average of growth, how much did they grow, takes a look at attendance increases, takes a look at graduation rates, but then also takes a look at how well did we do all of those things for our bottom kids as well. And the goal that we've written would basically say that by the end, if the numbers held the same, we would want to move from about the top 25th percentile into the top 10 percentile. So we want to move to be better than 9 out of 10 and be in the top 10%. That's what the goal kind of is written as. That being said, we don't really know, because we wrote it based on the 24-25 report card, because we know that the cuts are going to change a little bit, so then we're measuring apples to apples, and we don't even have that report card yet, so we're kind of anticipating.
Right.
There's some variables within that. The top half, 50% of our score is weighted based on our free and reduced number. And so generally when you look at a model, it's 25% achievement, 25% growth, but the higher economically disadvantaged, the more your score is based on growth. So if you can grow your kids, just because achievement is kind of a bar that's set for all. And so when we know that kids come to school with a lot of barriers in them, the state recognizes that by weighing their growth more. So they have a lot of barriers that they're facing, but if we can grow them on their own growth, then that's where we get a lot of achievement. So that's really where that RTI model comes in. When we talk a lot about, Sean says a lot, skill by skill, kid by kid. That's what we're talking about is growing our kids. Of course, we have a high bar for all of our kids, but growth for us is extremely important because of our free and reduced population.
Yeah, I get, I have obviously just concerns of the way that the community sees the district providing and delivering a high quality education versus what is actually happening. So how do we balance the two? Right? So I would just like a little bit more thought maybe to go into that measurable objective and how are we going to bridge that gap. But I think a lot of that comes back with the communication as well. So
Sure, if you don't mind if I say, when I was in Madison, there was a lot of conversation, there was a lot of DPI there as well, and that was one of actually the talking points that the educational leaders brought up, is that communities put so much stock into this report card, and so how do we get our community members to understand the report card, right? When I talk about achievement versus growth versus socioeconomic status, target group, that's your bottom 25%, there's such a metric system that goes into it. And so while we have a lot of success, I think a lot of it is allowing our community members to understand what a report card represents. And kind of what are the elements that go into it, like understanding that 25% is achievement and 25% growth, but we as a district are weighted higher in growth. And so achievement is weighted less on a report card because we're trying to grow our kids that have barriers that come to us. So, I think a lot of it is too, at a state level, is communities understanding what a report card all entails. It's not simple. It's extremely, difficult, not difficult, but there's a lot of data that goes into it. It's not just one score. It's taking a lot of things into consideration to give you that score.
Sure.
I
I
think
think,
I add.
yeah, go ahead.
So what I'm thinking, because if I'm understanding you correctly with how you started this, you wanted to maybe diversify the board goals to not automatically include all public perceptions as the target. There's no reason why you couldn't potentially use the district report card metric as a measure of helping support our schools in creating rigorous spaces.
It's exactly what it's exactly what I was
Because
talking
that,
about, yeah.
when we talk about equitable education, we are targeting that bottom part. We are talking about growing our students, and it measures all of those pieces into one. And as a board, if you're supportive in helping us target quality staff, do the onboarding, the training, that will just be a natural ripple effect of it. Whether or not our community fully understands the metrics of the report card is a different measure, but truly saying, hey, we've got this target at the student level, there's no reason why it couldn't echo that at the board level. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry if I misspoke and
No, that's exactly,
say that,
that's exactly
but
where
this
I
is
was
an
going
open
with
forum,
that.
right? So
Yeah,
we can-
You could
absolutely,
do
yeah.
measurable objectives, you could have the first one as the school perceptions, you could have the second one as the district report card if you
Yeah,
wanted to.
which is, it's exactly where I was going, like, how can we have measurable goals, because, yes, perception is reality. We want the community to perceive that we are doing that, and that's maybe one of the ways that the community does perceive what our high quality education looks like is because of the state report card. And then we need to use those metrics as well to start bolstering those and then educating. I think we did have a community engagement session 2 years ago on the state report card.
Oh, we've presented on the state report.
I mean, we presented every year,
Every
we had a
year.
community engagement session.
In January of 2024, I think we
Mhm.
did. But every year we've had a scorecard from the state of Wisconsin. I think there have been 11 total years where there has been one. One year they just didn't have one for anyone. I don't even remember why. It was like 2014. And then
Well,
And then COVID.
COVID did, so we didn't test kids, so they pulled it.
Yeah.
So there was 2 of the 11 years where 2 of the 13 years, because there's been 11 years where we've had a number. I
Yes.
think that those are the metrics.
it is
In each of those 11 years where there was a report card for the district, we exceeded expectations.
Yes.
And that's not just a phrase, it's a number, like 74.4.
Yeah.
So you could make that a measurable objective
Yeah.
easily.
I would like us to consider that as a board to,
Easy to do.
I mean, I think that does show the community that we are working towards something, that we are doing something, not just that we're gonna wait 5 years and then see, like, does the community agree that we're, doing that, so.
But how do you do that? Because if you're talking about looking at the results of the audit or the survey, not the survey, the audit or the testing, the report card at year 5, or are you weighting it throughout those?
Yeah, we look at it, year after year after
You
year.
can take,
Yeah.
you literally could take last year's number and do this year's number, because there'll be a number in November. We'll know our number again, so you can
Right.
literally do it that way if you want.
Right.
Right.
You
So
look
do
at-
we wanna increase that by, a certain percentage, and that's why I think that this is like, it's still kind of the board measurable goals may still be in
Sure.
a draft form here, because we have some work to, I would like to see a little bit more of a measurable goal than just basing it
Well,
off
right,
of.
yeah, because the problem that I had with this too was you could knock it out of the park, but if your community doesn't give you the feedback, then you fail. Or if there's a problem with the marketing side of things, or there's, who knows what else. I expect a lot from you guys. But, I mean, the reality is, based on how it's written, is that if you didn't do your job, we could fail those marks.
Yeah,
You could add another objective, simple.
yeah, I would like to see that.
That's a really difficult concept though, because we went like,
I know.
when with our middle school report card and going out to Washington, we promoted, and I still know people didn't quite understand it.
I know.
Even though no matter how many different sessions we had and mailings we had and
I
Celebration.
know that, and I think that's the danger of just saying like this, because then it's like, okay, well, then what do we do? I mean, I don't want to get here 5 years out. I don't even know if I'll be on the board in 5 years, but I don't want the board, we need to be forward thinking of not just us sitting here, but whoever's sitting in the seat to go, okay, well then we fell short. Why did we fall short? And what are we gonna do to correct that moving forward? So where's the teeth to say, okay, well then what do we do? Because then the community still doesn't see it, but we've raised all these marks, and so then what? Or what if somebody's sitting here in 5 years and they go, we're not going to do a school perception survey, because that's entirely possible. You know, we don't want to do it in 5 years, and then you're sitting here going, okay, then the community, like, are we making our mark? So just something that I wanted to think about and further draft on and have the administrative team be part of that discussion. But
Can I ask you a question? It's not related to this, but sort of related to what you said. When you talked about moving the goals from the 25th up to the 10th, is that realistic? Because I'm assuming that you're talking a lot tougher moves the further up you get.
Well, it's 8% growth over 5 years. So we want to increase our score by 8% in 5 years. And that was,
Those three areas individually?
yeah, combined into that also.
Those are pretty tightly packed in. You move 8% over the course of 5 years, you're gonna pass a lot of districts.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it's,
So there's 400 districts, so you pass a lot of people in.
I like to move 1%.
we agonized over some of these numbers and moved them around a little bit, just what we felt. But it's a very lofty goal.
But attainable.
I hope so.
yeah, and I guess I've always been sitting here in this chair thinking of lofty goals are good. We're not going to set goals that we know we're going to make, right? I mean, we're going to set goals that are realistically attainable. And if we just showed growth towards that goal, but we didn't hit the goal, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to set the bar so low that we're guaranteed to make it. And I think you're not stretching yourself, and that's not a good example for our kids either.
But it's really the only number that comes out that represents the entire district. Because we say, okay, we have different report cards, we also have different test scores, we have ACT scores, we have middle school forward, intermediate forward, but and they're different kids every year.
Right.
And so you're like, well, why do you measure now? So this is every kid.
Here.
Yeah.
For
And
example, it's 2 of you.
Yeah.
ACT is 1 of you.
Yeah. So I mean, it gives us it was really the only option we had to if we're going to set this type of goal.
Yeah.
But it's a lot harder for people to understand what the numbers mean as opposed to percentage that made proficiency on one test. But again, that's one test where has multiple measures, so it's much more reliable as well.
Yeah, and I do like that it's a district-wide approach that way instead of just the AGR report that is grades 1 through 3.
Right.
Lofty goals, 80% of those kids that we're looking for that percentile to fall into. Lofty goal. We don't always make it, but it's a lofty goal.
Right.
This actually measures a district-wide approach so that to be more cohesive through the district.
So
Help
we're
each other.
we have a higher score than 3 out of every 4 schools. So in the top 25%, we want to get elite and get into be better than 9 out of 10. And so that would be our goal.
Jessica's over there like,
Lofty.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it.
We're gonna do it.
Yeah, but I'll be retired, so I
We just had this conversation.
Now you have 5 more years. You're okay.
Yeah, well, and that's why it's like, some of us might not be here in 5 years, right? We have to be forward thinking. The people
No,
that are gonna be back.
I think it's realistic. I do.
we talked about 5 and we felt like that wasn't pushing us where we wanted to go. We felt like we wanted to really strive for greatness for all of our kids.
And I think that's kind of what I'm thinking with the board too. I mean, it ultimately falls on us to make sure that those things are happening, and we all need to lift each other up here. And so I think
We applaud that.
yeah,
That's awesome.
like it.
I think it's important, I want to make sure the audience members know that we're welcome to their feedback during the session as well.
Yep.
So if there are any audience members that have feedback about the strategic plan, we're welcome.
That's what we're
to
here for.
hearing that.
And
Yeah.
community engagement. That's what we're definitely here for. So
I also want to point out too that the PowerPoint does not have all the measurable objectives in it. Like Tom's talking about an 8% growth on some of these earlier slides. It just would have been a really long presentation. So this document has that detail in it. So if you're watching, you can get this in board book, or if you're here, they're outside the door.
yeah, and if you don't have access to board book, I know Becky would be
happy
happy
to
to
send
print
you
you one.
But there's measurable objectives with all of the previous slides we reviewed. There's more detail in this document.
Yeah, and then again, I kind of had that same feeling of communication, just kind of asking fellow board members of, again, we have the perception of, do we communicate with the public effectively, and then what do we do if that number doesn't go up? What do we do? How are we going to, do we have measurable ways that we want to engage with the public that we already don't? Is there something that we've heard as board members that the public would like to see?
I'd make a couple comments with regard to the communication piece that you're just talking about. April and I came into the strategic planning process kind of halfway through, at best halfway through.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
And, you know, we're still learning a lot, and in terms of communication with the community, you know, I'd really like to see what some of the best practices are. You know, the schools that rank real high in communication within their district, what are they doing that maybe we aren't doing? I don't know. I don't even know what all the engagement sessions are that we do have. I know we have some, and I think we're probably doing a fair job with regard to communication, but there are probably some things that other schools are doing that we might want to take a look at. So I'd be interested in looking at some best practices with regard to that and see where we fit on that scale.
I agree.
So I think maybe a little more discernment on the, I like the goals, I like the measurable objectives. I think we're asking the right questions. Maybe we have a little more fine tuning.
Have you heard, or have you, especially being new, have you heard anything from community members of how the board could communicate better with the public, or has anybody said anything? You feel that there's something lacking?
Well, no, not necessarily, but it seems like that is always, I don't know if you can ever communicate enough. It's real common for, even within the business community, you know, are you communicating enough? It seems like you're always striving to do better in that regard, but if we're following best practices, and we probably are to a great extent, wonderful. But if there's something we could learn from districts that score real high, would the Wisconsin Association of School Boards have some kind of material?
I think a better source would be school perceptions.
Okay.
They're the ones that track who is receiving what marks on the issue, on all issues, including that of communication. So when they say you're at the 68th percentile in regards to communicating with me effectively, who's in the 90th?
And what are they doing?
And what are they doing?
What are they
Because
doing? Yeah.
all I need to know is who, then we can call them and ask, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not in any way gonna be shy about grabbing a good idea from someone else and making it our own.
Yeah,
We do it all the time.
You summed it up real well. I think that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I can contact, I think it's what, Scott Demise, I think is how you say his name, Rob Demise at School Perceptions, and ask, can you tell me who's, give me the top 10, 15 percentile, who are we talking about, if they can.
Right, because I mean, it doesn't, you know, for me, I think of like, okay, you know, we have social media and we utilize that, and we're using that in several different avenues. Tracy's done a good job of going on to not only Facebook, but broadened out to Instagram and to Twitter. We have coaches that use Twitter, those kind of things, but this is obviously a reflection of the board. I certainly am not out on Twitter, Facebook, yes. Are we doing a good enough job sharing the information of board meetings that are upcoming? Are we doing good enough, yes, we submit things to the paper. Do people want to see things more in the paper? I could think that we're doing an okay job, but it doesn't really matter what I think when the community says you stink at this. I want to know what do they want? What do we want?
The one person that says you stink at it, got it in front of them 10 times and never saw it.
I know that happens, and I guess that's again, but that's the idea of a perception survey, right? It's even though the perception is their reality, it might not be the reality, but it happens. So how are we do we have a bunch of boxes, like Larry said, that are best practices? Are we checking those boxes off?
And
I don't think, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Well, I think as far as like in my 35 years working in schools, how much it's changed. But you know, I know we recently, as far as the way we're communicating, the methodology we're doing, I think we got awarded something. Tracy can remind me on being one of the top 10 as far as the ways we were doing it. Remember that? It was like on our website and. Okay, never mind. But I know that, you know, as far
Well,
as
the
like,
school perception survey, the area that we received the highest in the marks was our communication with the public
Yeah.
via our presence
yeah,
on social media.
so
Yeah.
right, so I look and think, you know, between
So
between
we're already there.
all the social
Wow.
media posts, the newspaper, you know, Bright Arrow. I mean, we're constantly sending out, this is coming up, there's messages to go to every parent. They can go into the portal, look up grades, they can communicate back and forth.
Yeah.
Teachers are required to communicate with parents that if their kid's at a certain threshold, whatever it might be. But sometimes a lot of our messaging is on things that parents want to see. Fun things, activity, sporting events, kids having fun, you know, kids doing a science project, whatever. But sometimes, you know, we miss out on, well, maybe we need to share all these other things in a better way. And I think sometimes too, their idea, well, is not necessarily how we're communicating, but what and when.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, like, yeah, I think the district got good marks there, but the board did not. So clearly, what is the community expecting to see from the board?
Right.
Specifically, that they're not getting.
I'm gonna piggyback on Steve though and say that we have to remember when we put things out here, we see tonight, we have 1 or 2 extra community members out there and it's out there, we've invited. And if it's not a priority, it's tough. And we also have to remember that this was the school perception survey and this is where we ranked low, but it wasn't like we were astronomically low. I think we still do a good job. It's, you know, it's the
What
old,
can we
you
do
can
better?
take the horse to water, you can't make it drink. We put it out there and I'm just hoping community members, I mean, I talked to a person that didn't even know that we had time for community comment at all school board meetings and things, and she's been in this community 20 years. And so it's,
So then, yeah, like, does
So
that beg a question?
here's
then?
the community, I'm
How
looking
do
at
you-
the school perception, sorry, I'm quoting from the school perception survey. It's on page 11 it's slide 11 of the school perception result. It's on the mark that says communicates with me effectively. The percentage of our community that took the survey that agree with that is 74%. That puts us
pretty high.
at a 3.6 on a 1 to 4 scale, which puts us in the 46th percentile. So that's a mark where you're not at the first percentile. People, if 3 out of 4 people are agreeing with that, but in comparison to other districts, we could do better. Those are that's one of the 3 areas where we see the lowest remark. That's how it ended up here. So it isn't cataclysmically bad,
Right.
but it could be better.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, this is a good place to start with, and obviously, like you said, there isn't a lot of community here, but if people are going to watch this at a later time and they would like to weigh in, know that our emails are posted. They can always reach out, community can always reach out by email. We're willing to talk, take feedback of how we can do those things better, engage, get information out. Maybe we need to put something more out on social media. I'm not sure what we're looking for there, but if anybody has any ideas, I would be happy to entertain those ideas as we move forward with the drafts here.
Right, I just want to add, not just about this, not just about this survey, of course, they have our email addresses, but at any time if you have concerns, that's the best way to get a hold of us. For instance, if something gets posted on social media, like why did this happen? We might not see it, right? So if you have something that you want to communicate with us about, I personally want you to find us approachable to bring your concerns to, and please contact us via email so that we can communicate with you.
Email, smoke signals, carrier pigeons.
Jeff has a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So one question and then one thing that might be able to help your communication efforts is, when I was down in La Crosse, I was in broadcasting. the one thing that we do once a month is we go out to all the neighboring schools, and people would submit, like, hey, Miss Erickson, for example, was the best teacher for all these classes for X amount of time, could you do a spotlight on education on them? So I go out, interview them, see what they're doing in their classrooms, and then basically be a fly on the wall, just kind of showcasing what the teachers were doing in their class. That kind of set them apart from other teachers. I don't know if you'd be able to integrate that here, but when I go on your YouTube channel, pretty much the only things that are on there are kind of board meetings and graduation. So that might be able to kind of help the people kind of get a little bit more engaged in that effort, to kind of show who the teachers are and what they do. Similarly, a lot of forms of media nowadays are scrolling on the reels. So if you have small bits of information that you're able to kind of compartmentalize and put within those reels, kind of like what you guys were talking about the information in regards to DPI, you can put that into short form context or whatnot for the public to more or less be able to digest really quickly and then move on. Or have them set up to where, oh, well, that's kind of interesting, next reel. Oh, now I know more, and they just kind of go down a rabbit hole. The one question I had for you though is, I understand that I've done plenty of stories the last couple of years I've been here, both good and bad. My only question for the board is, if there are things that are good and bad, should I come to you guys for that? Because usually, and I'm not saying it's bad to go through Sean, but typically I do go to Sean first since he is the superintendent.
He would be the person that would have the most knowledge of the day-to-day operations of the district. The board, what the board is privy to is probably not anything that we could give you that would help, because it wouldn't be privy to the public. So Sean is generally the guy that would know what's going on in the district day to day. So yeah, he would be the contact. That's not our job necessarily as the board, so we're just oversight on that. So
The rule of thumb for me is if it's something that concerns the education of your child, this would be the first person I talk to. If not, they're the first one, the classroom teacher would be the first one. Because I'm not gonna even know. If they've got some issue with name your teacher at the elementary school, I'm likely not to know. Megan might not even know, the teacher probably would. So that would be the first port of entry. If it's something that's district-wide or board issue, contact me, I can put you in the right direction. But anyone at any time can contact any person here, or all 5 of them simultaneously. Happens all the time.
yes, we get lots of email that way, but a lot of times we end up referring back to Sean because there's some things that we just don't know yet or we can't discuss until we have a meeting. So
We can't unilaterally release information, it has to be as a group. So that's where, to have those conversations individually is fine, but anything that's official, board recommendation has to come from the board. It can't come from an individual on the board.
The reason why I ask that is because if people are saying they're having an issue with the communication of the board, should I come to the board or should I keep going to the?
those things you should, definitely come to the board with. Yeah, that's a board matter. I would definitely come to board members first. Yes, those kind of things. Anything that doesn't affect like the district personnel, just district policies, things like that. Yes.
Because I know typically when it comes to media of any kind, obviously there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days. And I'm not super ignorant of that fact, but I just want to make sure I'm going through the right channels.
Yeah, absolutely. Melinda, you had some?
Yeah, just a little out of the subject, but back to the report card. I just want to let you know, as a perspective, as a parent of middle schooler, please call me old fashioned, but I believe in grade A through F. I mean, it's been like that for a long time. New Richmond School is still doing that. Other schools still doing that. And what I experienced is when I first got the report card in for middle school, like first year, and I'm looking at behavioral and I'm like, what is this? It's confusing for me because it's confusing for me to explain to my kid, okay, I guess you're doing okay here, but it sounds like you're having a little trouble here. It's not giving me a good perspective of we do go to parent-teacher conference, okay? So I know how they're doing or what area they need to work on, but it doesn't give me a clear straightforward. If my kids are getting a D, okay, I'm gonna call the school and say, hey, can we get a tutor? I wanna help my kid right away so they don't fall behind or whatever. So it's just my opinion. I feel that the grading system in middle school is not very effective for my kids because they're like, middle school, who cares? They don't even care if they're doing good in this. They don't have motivation to do extra credit when the teacher recommends. So I try, they go, well, I don't even know if I'm doing good with extra credit. So it's not doing them any service because I know that in high school, it's A through F, college, A through F. It's like my daughter going to 9th grade, she's very nervous. And I am too, because I'm nervous to know, not knowing what kind of grade she's gonna be getting and where she's gonna be struggling with. Then I know I'm gonna have to prepare, do I have to get her tutor for this or tutor for this? Because I'm just trying to figure out what area are they having trouble with and stuff. So it's just not very effective. So I just want you to know that this is how I feel because it's just not doing my kids service. And I talk to other parents, they feel like it's confusing too. It's confusing for their kids because it's just not giving them the motivation. Like I'm getting a C, I might have to do better, or hey, I might have to work harder on this. It's just to kind of give them some kind of a little motivation. So that's just where I'm coming from. So you should know.
Sure. Yeah, I think, Tom, you're probably the best qualified to answer or provide feedback there.
Sure. The purpose behind the standards-based report card is that there's, like say, English encompasses multiple things: reading, writing, spelling, comprehension, all of the data. So if you'd say a parent, well, I got a B in English, what does that mean? And most of them couldn't tell you. But if you're saying you're above average, you're meeting the expectation, in your ability to read, your ability to write, is it a 2? You need to improve that. Your ability to speak in public, your ability to do all the different components. So the report card is broken out into about 6 components. I can understand that it's different, but it's the similar reporting system than all the other schools up until high school. So middle school is not the only one doing that. I can understand that it might be more difficult to say, but I can tell you that the achievement that we're getting out of the kids is top notch. So maybe doing a disservice, but those kids are performing at an extremely high level, some of the best in the state. So we're definitely getting the results that we want out of our students. But that's just, it's different, is maybe the best way to put it. But every time someone said, well, I don't understand this, I'll say, well, if your kid got a B in English, what does that mean? How did they write? How did they read? How did they speak? How did they do all of it? Did they understand conventions and grammar? They said, what does a B mean? And they can't tell you. But the report card, the way it is written, breaks it down to every component. So it's much harder to do because you're evaluating them in multiple ways. But I understand what you're saying because it's different. But I get a lot less of those questions now because it's the same report card they're getting at the elementary, the middle, intermediate, and at the middle. So by the time I get them now, most of the parents have seen it all along. But I would tell you that probably 75% of the districts grade that way in the state now.
But what you bring up is a very valid point,
Right.
that as the first introduction to this system, that our building can do a good job of educating a parent on what exactly that means.
Right.
So they're not feeling like they're flying blind for 8 years, wondering what does my child know or not.
Right.
But truly to equip them with the knowledge to interpret, understand, and then help support their child. And I think that starts not necessarily at the middle school level, but at my building level, as they get introduced to this system, because it is new for parents, right? It's not what you were used to, but really equipping them with the knowledge and skills to go, what does this mean and how do I help my child?
Right.
It's what we could do better at, and that's a part of some of our goals.
Right.
So I was wondering, middle school and high school, do you guys offer any tutoring that they, for example, my kid will have trouble with math, do you guys offer tutor at school, or could they have tutor outside school? I'm just curious.
Well, we have tutors at every subject level, at every grade level.
Okay,
In addition, we have after-school tutoring too, that goes till 4 o'clock from 3 to 4, if they need help in that area.
okay,
You know, as far as like the hardcore tutoring that you might get outside by a private tutoring hire is very different, but you know, that's options for parents.
yeah, okay,
And I do think that was kind of born out of that shift in the grading system. And I can totally appreciate your concern because this kind of rolled out when I was pretty new to the board myself. Probably nobody got more pushback on Tom than I gave him. And I wasn't a fan for about a year or two. And I'll sit here every day in this chair to say I was glad that I was completely wrong, because our results are showing that the kids really are learning because of how the assessments are being done now. And because they're so able to drill down into all of those components, that's where they're able to get the specialized help. So they're not just looking at one grade overall, it's in those little components of the standards that they've set. And that's what I think has really helped the kids. And then moving into high school, there is opportunities there to get extra help. Those are things that are built in with the Warrior Time, and Josh can probably explain a little bit more of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple options. There's advisory time where there's informal with other students helping. There's also, we have some retired teachers that have came in when they're connected with our school counselors, do a nice job of, and to be honest, some of them come in and they volunteer their time, don't ask for any money, and they've offered assistance. And
sure,
so, yeah, but, sometimes we'll suggest things, but the best way is for a family to really actively pursue getting extra help, and then we'll make it happen no matter what it takes.
A shift in thinking of how we're grading is kind of the biggest thing, but I get it. I understand. It's like, and I think some of those things still come from that comparison. We're like, oh, I gotta see. I know that I'm passing. I'm doing well, but it's just a different wording now. Is like meeting the expectations, right? So.
well, I mean, my kids do take their schoolwork seriously, and sometimes, like, my son, if he had trouble with math, his dad is a math genius, so he'll sit down with him to go through it. It's not a problem, it's just, I'm just thinking down the road.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
I
and
wanna
your
be
point's
prepared.
well taken, because it's confusing to some people, and it's
Yeah.
confusing to parents, and so we need to continue to work on further family sessions on all of it.
It's about, and that's, part of why we're doing this community engagement session is what can we do better? How does the public perceive what we're doing here? Because that is a big portion of that.
Are you active in Power School?
Pardon me?
Are you active in Power School online, watching the kids' grades and test scores?
Am I actively what?
In the parent portal,
So the parent portal of Power School, you can log in.
Yeah,
you can
oh
see-
yeah, we do Power
Right.
School and Remind too, like
Yep.
communication.
So that's how we were able to keep our kids,
Oh, yeah.
well, that's how my wife was able to keep our kids.
Yeah, it took a
on
while
track.
to kind of figure out Power School, what am I looking for and stuff, so.
Yeah, and maybe there's not enough parents that know that that's out there too, Craig, because if they're waiting for a report card or waiting for a phone call,
Yeah.
the parent could preemptively pull that kid aside and say, hey, how come you haven't turned this in, or how are you doing on this, or,
Okay,
so.
sure, thanks.
Thanks. Did you have any other questions? You're literally the only person left, so. All right, but I thank you for
Yeah,
taking the
thank you
time
for taking the time
to
to
be
come.
here. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
it's
important.
just-
I appreciate that. Okay, is there any other feedback from the board on our board goals?
Well, it sounds to me like we either need to make some adjustments tonight, or we need to think about it, table it, and come back with something for the next meeting.
Yeah,
agree with that.
yeah.
My
I mean,
recommendation will be rework it and come back next meeting. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be done now.
yep, I just,
So
is
when you
there,
get to that action
Yep.
item later, you can simply say, we're gonna
right, yeah. I just wanted to know if there's anything to wrap up this portion of, before we move into the regular board meeting.
No, other than to thank all those that put everything together, all those folks that were shown on the screen. It's fantastic.
A lot of great work has been done.
It was. This was a long process. It really wasn't something that we put together in a hurried manner. I appreciate all of the people that came for all of the meetings, took their time and extra after school. to come to those meetings and listen to the results and come up with this plan, and for the administrative team to move forward, and did a really fantastic job.
And I think I want to thank the parents and the community members for coming to try to learn more about it.
Yeah, and for those that completed the survey, because that is really important. We spent money on the survey, and we hoped that people would answer, and so for those that completed the survey, thank you to help guide our work, so I think it's important. All right, anything else? Okay, we'll move along with the regular portion then of the regular school board meeting, and we'll open up with the consent agenda items. Who had those this month?
I did.
You did.
I did.
All right.
Everything was in order, and so I would move that we approve the consent agenda items as they were presented.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Steve. It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Okay, motion approved. The consent agenda items are approved. Next up is the administrative committee and department reports.
All right, district-wide, first off, had a lot of crisis prevention training going on. Been stationed at the high school. Shout out to Chuck Wellman and Amanda Rowling, who have been doing the training. Lots of individuals. Abby kind of runs the organization on that and has been spearheading that, and we've had a lot of staff in and out. I do have EduClimber on my list, but I'm going to yield that to Jess. That's kind of her baby, so I'll leave that for her. We've been doing a lot of BenQ Smart Board training for our new interactive boards. Continued ongoing math PD going on as it has been all summer. AP test results, we had an 86% pass rate, 24 out of 28 on AP test results. That's about as high as I've ever seen. That's fabulous. And then our DACP dual academic credit summary, 96 students earned 335 credits this past year. That's a lot of credits earned by our kids, so that's fabulous.
Nice job, high schoolers.
All sports have all started as of today. Shout out to our custodians for great work here on getting the buildings clean. And then we're putting the finishing touches on the digital signage out in the commons area. Lonnie was hooking those up today, so hopefully we'll have those rolling here in a couple days. Future events, of course, we all have in-service week next week. We've got the Miss Amery Talent Show coming up on Saturday, and then freshman orientation next week on Thursday.
Nice. First day of school, September 2nd. Huh? Dang.
All right, at the middle school, we have 6th grade orientation coming up next Tuesday. Also 7th and 8th grade open house. So the orientation for 6th grade is a lot more detailed. But we're also open for 7th and 8th graders to come in and meet teachers, learn what middle school is all about. That runs from 4:30 to 6 on Tuesday, August 26th.
April.
Yeah, April.
We're going to talk about the last day of school.
Yes. EduClimber training.
You'll yield it.
Well, we did have 2-3 hours worth of training. Lots of great staff trained, but Jess wants to talk about it.
Poor Jess. Poor Jess.
Sure.
She does.
She loves it. August 25th, we have new teacher in-service, so all of the new teachers that are new to, not necessarily new to teaching, but new to teaching in Amery will be going through an in-service day with all of us, and that will be pretty cool. Like we said, back to school in-service on the 26th. First day of school on the 2nd, we'll have our big Warrior Way celebration and kicking off the middle school. We just finished up summer school last Friday. That's not on the agenda, but summer school and those teachers and the kids did a great job, and I really, really want to thank all those staff members and Laura Shogren, who did an amazing job running summer school and always does. She's awesome. And all the buildings are pretty well cleaned and organized and ready to go, and the custodians, I want to thank all our custodians and George Sigsworth and everyone for making sure that our buildings are in the shape they are. And I had someone come through just a couple of weeks ago through my school and give them a tour, brand new student parents, and they said, wow, this is a new school. I said, no, this was built in the mid-90s. And they were floored at how nice it looks, so I really want to commend our custodians for keeping things looking nice. We have Picture Day on September 4th, so information will be coming out to parents about how to order pictures. Dramarama sign up is September 9th. That will be coming out to parents soon about what that's all about. But if your kid's into Dramarama and one-act plays, that competition's coming up, and the sign up will be September 9th. And then our cadet band's marching in the Fall Festival Parade, so we're pretty excited about that. September 13th, that's coming up soon, believe it or not. And then our new teachers, not only do they go through this in-service day on the 25th, but we have
seven.
We have 7 new teacher essential classes that they rotate through. We meet with them about once every month or a month and a half, and we have different topics that we lead, just to kind of make sure that they understand what we expect and what the state expects and how things work.
Is that for district-wide teachers or just middle school teachers?
District-wide.
Okay.
Yeah, so we take turns all doing them, and it's kind of nice because you meet these teachers, and then sometimes we don't always see them very often if they're not in our building. So when we lead those sessions, when it's our turn to lead it, we get to kind of interact with them in a different way.
Nice.
Yep. You're welcome to come and watch if you want.
I would love to.
Okay.
I would love to. I'm gonna mark that on my calendar.
You can
4
report
o'clock?
back to me.
I will do that. I'll report back to the whole board. I'll do that.
Now you can learn about EduClaim.
Oh.
I thought you got voted into it, but it's literally on your report.
Oh, if we would have talked, she would have been like,
I can see it happening.
EduClimber has been something that we've talked about for quite some time. Act 20 kind of prompted us to look into how we are doing our data collection on kids and how we're communicating. And so our first steps were training staff. So we had 30 staff participate either here at the intermediate school in the library or on their devices from home. And we had a trainer that walked through 4 different sessions totaling 6 hours, where we got introduced to the program, how to navigate it, where you can find data. So in addition to those 30 staff members, all of those trainings were then recorded and pushed out to all of our staff members. So it is a requirement that all of our staff members watch all 6 hours of this video to be able to understand how to use EduClimber. Really the urgency in them watching that and kind of that being a non-negotiable is that is going to be our data management system. It's also our behavioral tracking system. The system we used before, we are no longer using because this has a component of that, which is a big part of why we went to EduClimber. So as of right now, staff are completing that kind of non-negotiable training, and then throughout this year we will continue to offer professional development. It can really do a lot of really robust things for us when looking at holistic picture of our kids, and so we will spend the year learning what all those different tools and thresholds and communication pieces. It is something that generally takes 1 to 2 years to roll out. So following EduClimber's recommendation, we are going slow at this point to make sure everyone feels comfortable and we can use it to the best of our ability. So thank you for letting me have that.
And I'm assuming the teachers are getting PDHs for those?
They are,
Okay.
they are, yes. We definitely want them to feel like their time is valued here with us, so.
Okay.
Summer school, just echoing what Tom said, Laura Sjogren does a fantastic job. The August sessions are here at the intermediate school, and it, for me, selfishly, it's a really nice warm-up to the school year because there's busyness, there's kids in the cafeteria. So I really enjoy having summer school here in August, and Laura does such a nice job, and our teachers that give up several weeks to come here and spend time with our kids is so important. So I want to thank her for that, and then also echo Tom's thoughts. Each of our building, is a huge undertaking for all of our custodians who work, really long hours and do a lot of preparedness that we can only get to once in the summer. So I really appreciate their hard work. The Wisconsin Report Card Standard Setting Panel, Shar, you had brought that up. I did go to Madison last week, and I got to spend several days with educational leaders. There was 26 of us in total from around the state, and our roles varied from directors of curriculum instruction to principals to assessment. We had big schools, we had little schools, everything in between. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to go. I feel like it grows me as an educational leader, but not only that, the fact that I can bring back that knowledge to us when we're talking about setting goals for ourselves and the measurements that the state uses. So I felt like that was very beneficial to me, and I appreciate your support and me attending those things. Looking at what's upcoming for the intermediate school, we have our open house. From 4:30 to 6 on August 27th, we have our first day of school on September 2nd, and then we have our picture day here at the intermediate school on September 5th.
It's thank you for going, because it's valuable to the district as well, and so I hope that our staff feel supported in that way, because what's good for you and broadening your expansion and your knowledge is good for the district as well, which is good for our kids and our families, and that's a lot of work, and it's very controversial. The state report card is very controversial, especially now, and so I appreciate you going. So thank you for that. And I didn't mean to PDHs when I asked if the teachers are getting PDHs for our new staff members. Those are professional development hours. So and that is related to teacher salary and pay, just so that you understand that, because I forget sometimes that we have new people on board, and so I make sure that I don't leave you out.
We're acronym heavy in education.
Yeah. Thank you. That's awesome.
So still feeling like my head's spinning in some capacities, but the momentum is moving in the right direction. I've been blessed. We've got some amazing people here. People that work really hard and people that are willing to meet numerous times to help move the needle forward. So my leadership team now, we met again today, so that's our third time that we've met for at least 2.5 hours, if not almost 3, to talk about strategies and supports we can put in place for the school year to help create a positive and collaborative environment, and really focusing on that team building, not only happening at in-service, but happening throughout the year. So they've come with some wonderful ideas. I even had a teacher spend their Saturday revamping our teacher's lounge area and making it look pretty and true elementary fashion, right? But it's pretty incredible the work that's going on there, and I just want to thank them 100% for doing that and helping guide my decision making, because as a leader I want to make sure that I'm making decisions based on what the team is saying would benefit the whole, as I'm still learning in that spaces. Another spot where my learning continues and our Montessori team has done a great job is within Montessori. I'm not going to claim to be a Montessori expert by any means, but that is a huge part of my role, right? Not only to lead the public pathway, but also to lead the Montessori pathway. So I had the team come in to help deepen my understanding. We talked about curriculum, we talked about how do these processes work, and we also talked about how are we communicating with families, knowing that Montessori is even more subjective than a traditional pathway, and how do we communicate those checkpoints. We have partnered with River Falls Montessori, which is actually one of the leading Montessoris in the state, and how do we do this in an equitable way to help move things forward. So I'm really excited to have that work continue, and thanking that district for helping us support that as well. The last piece that I wanted to talk to, thanks, a huge shout out to Annie Broughton for creating a meeting between me, her, and the public library to talk about how can we actually get the public library into our learning spaces more often and get their resources that they have there at the fingertips of our family and our families at a more fluid place, which falls directly in line with the strategic plan and all the different parts, but really knowing that if we get families reading with our students outside of our school hours, it only helps us out more. And they've got some wonderful ideas for innovation. Shout outs. The IT department has done an incredible job getting all of those BenQ boards up and running in our space. And we're going to be having a little celebration for all the people that made the elementary school ready on Thursday with some pizza, just to kind of say hey, thanks. Because I hear at this time last year it was not in the state that the building is this year, and teachers are coming in saying it looks incredible.
That would be an accurate reflection.
Yeah. So
Tracy
recognizing that
Yeah.
recognizing that work doesn't just happen overnight, and trying to not only give them shout outs but truly to acknowledge them with just some food in their bellies is something that we're going to be doing. Upcoming events, we've got that open house, some popsicles with the principal. We've ordered some healthy nutritional popsicles from our food service department to showcase some of the food that we offer our students. Amy was really excited about doing that, and they're already here. She had to let me know they're already here.
Fantastic.
The Chalk Fest event will also be taking place outside where families can decorate and send positive messages to our school and our community. First day for K through 12 students is actually on the 2nd, but 4K students actually start that Friday. The intention behind that is to have meetings one-on-one with their families prior to really understand who their children are before they start that school year. So that's a very intentional soft start for the 4K, and we're already filling up the itinerary there. And then, thank you to April for helping kind of organize some of these pieces, and to Amanda as well. We've got a PJs and popcorn playground party come up on the 19th, in which our family members will get to come and just play and get to know each other. I'll be there so they can actually talk to me. We've got some food trucks coming on site where families can do it, and then we'll have a movie playing in the evening. This does not interfere with any football. Made sure that we chose a night in which football was away, but it'll be a Friday night event, so community is welcome to come out and just play together and just be together and get to know who people are.
You must have read my mind, because I was literally just going like, is that a Friday night?
It is a Friday night, but there's no football. There have been many entities maybe trying to pick the wrong night.
We're in Ellsworth or Prescott, I can't remember.
But I'm sure I've talked enough, so.
Thanks.
Yep, so Josh touched on CPI, crisis prevention intervention training, and I'm gonna hold off and wait and talk about that at my seclusion restraint report that comes up next. Last week I had a great opportunity, back in my day when I was a special ed teacher, I co-taught with a really dynamic teacher, Erin Gehring, and she agreed to come, and we co-taught a co-teaching boot camp to partners that we have throughout the district with a general ed and a special ed teacher who will be teaching classes together. This is a really great way to have all of our students who are supported by IEP in the gen ed classroom as much as possible, exceeding those grade level standards. So it was a really great morning. We had some really great partnerships and that we have out in the district. So I'm excited for this to grow in our district and continue to do some professional development with those teachers. So it was a fun morning. And then CISA 11, they have a really great program for new incoming special ed teachers who have not had experience teaching, and they do a cohort and they kind of do some professional development throughout the school year. And I have been honored and selected as a director that was going to come and speak to them. I was elected from a teacher from this district and my previous district about how to support new teachers in the process. And then I'm also going to be speaking with new directors of pupil services at CISA as well to get them started on their school year. So I'm looking forward to sharing that knowledge with our incoming special ed teachers. We have one from our district that will be attending, which I'm excited for him. So.
Very good. Sean, do you have anything for
I do
administrative
not.
reports?
I do not.
All right, then
I have
Abby,
a
go
question.
go
I have a
ahead.
question for Josh. The football players are out selling these cards, and I've had a few.
Heck of a good deal on the Blizzards.
Yeah, it pays for
I
itself.
had a couple
did.
people ask me questions on that, so just for information, for my information, why are they out doing that, and what percent of that money actually goes to back to the students?
100% of whatever they make goes back to the students on this. Coaches can tell you better. A lot of it goes towards team meals that they do night before the game or on a road trip sometimes. Buying sweatshirts, t-shirts, like some fancy equipment that they'll use, like technology-wise, that maybe the school can't always purchase for them. But they do, all of our booster programs do a nice job of making sure that's all spent on kids.
Yeah, we do use Huddle, I think, in our, don't we still use Huddle, right? Yes, because your son is still studying, which I love to see. It's the most wonderful time of the year. And so we use Huddle so that the kids can actually watch their games. And they can
School
go back
pays
to
for the Huddle.
Yeah, does that, okay, so the
School pays for Huddle.
school pays for it, so no offsetting cost then for that. All right, I guess we can afford Huddle. Gotcha. I guess we got that. But there are other things that they do, and it's a great.
Other
great
sports do similar things.
Different types of fundraisers.
Different fundraising. Yeah, I think the football guys have cornered the market on the cards, right?
Yeah. We've been doing it for a while.
Wrestling does like they put in docks, right? I think, or the football team used to take them out. Wrestling used to put them in. I don't know if they still do that
Everybody's
anymore.
kind of got their own little.
They've got their little thing going on, but
Yeah.
yeah. Obviously, you were participating, so good job. All right, Abby, you're not going anywhere because you have a seclusion and restraints report to give, correct?
Let's do this, yeah. So every year, you can me this is the signal when you want to go. Sure. Okay, you can go ahead. Every year we have to, by the law, present to school board data from our previous year, so this is a 24-25 information about any students that were involved and the number for seclusion and restraint. So every school district has to do that. Go ahead. So quick definitions, just to refresh, physical restraint is a restriction that immobilizes or reduces the ability of a student to freely move his or her torso, arms, legs, or head. And then seclusion is involuntary confinement of a student apart from other students in a room or area from which a student is physically prevented from leaving. So these are things that we put in place, of course, only when very, very last resort, when a student's behavior presents a clear and present and imminent risk to themselves physically or other students or other adults in the room. So again, we have to have some reporting requirements, and you're gonna see the numbers here in a minute, but we have to tell you how many incidents of seclusion and restraint happened, the total number of students that were involved in the incidents, and the total number of students with disabilities who are involved in the incident. With the students who are supported by IEP, there's some documentation that included that we also have to keep track of, and then we have to have a meeting about if a student is secluded or restrained. We have to have a meeting right away for the first time each year to talk about, are we supporting them, what's the plan, what's the behavior plan. So for those reporting requirements. We use that information every year. We meet as a team in each building. We talk about how many do we have, let's talk about it, what have we tried to reduce the number, and I'm going to tell you we have pretty low numbers in Amery. I'm impressed. Our teachers have worked really hard, I think, to keep those numbers low and doing some things before a student would get that dysregulated. We look at those numbers to make sure we have that CPI, nonviolent crisis prevention. So that's a training that, as Josh said, Chuck and Amanda Rowling, Chuck Lohman and Amanda Rowling run for all the support staff and special ed teachers, and then some outlying other staff who may be involved in a seclusion or restraint. They talk about what we do preceding that, what are we looking for, what are some of the signs, what are some things that we can do so a student doesn't get dysregulated, and then if they are, here are the holds that we would use, or how do you restrain, or how do you do seclusion appropriately, and they actually practice those moves. So, so we use that information to make sure we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. So here are the reports. I like to reflect the last report and this report, just because it's always good to compare data. So for this last school year, we had 9 incidents of seclusion and 13 incidents of restraint. And the total number of students who were involved were only 3, and all 3 of them were students supported by an IEP. So we, again, this is just good data for us to talk about those 3 students and what are we doing to build programming and support around those students. So training, I'm not going to read all of this to you, but what it kind of summarizes, so that CPI, again, we talk about ways to avoid seclusion and restraint because it is our last resort. How do we determine if it's a dangerous behavior and when we should implement a restraint or a hold or a seclusion? How to, again, correctly do those restraints or a seclusion, and then we have some training on the documentation because there's specific outline of documentation that has to happen afterwards for each incident. So again, I kind of talked a lot about CPI, but it talks about prevention and de-escalation, helps them remember or revisit their decision-making process and how they're responding to a student's behavior, and then managing the risk using those disengagement and holding skills. And there's some resources if you're interested. Any questions?
Pretty straightforward. Nice to see that the students involved are fewer, even though the incidents are up.
Yep.
If the students involved are fewer, so that's progress.
Yeah, continue to work. Yep.
How many staff? Do you know how many staff that we have at our CPI?
Oh geez, we're moving towards almost 3/4 of them,
Yeah.
We're
Okay.
including paras, not just classroom instructors.
Yep.
There's a lot.
They've done a lot this month.
And I think the really important part, and Abby was talking about this, the de-escalation of escalated, it far outweighs the restraints and the holds. That number would be far bigger if it wasn't for the de-escalation techniques that are learned throughout all this.
And, you know, I'm kind of partnering, this is kind of off the thing, but this year for all our support staff, I'm partnering this, they've had this, but I'm also partnering and bringing in quite a bit of professional development during our Welcome Back Week for our support staff, just talking about behavior. And what does that mean, and what does that look like for our students who are coming in with, you know, They know that they have, coming from not great places, and how does that represent or show up in school? So I have a great speaker about that. We're talking about mindfulness and using techniques for breathing or positive thinking right in the moment with a student who may be becoming dysregulated. So we're gonna do some training on that, and then we're gonna do some training on restorative chats on if you have a dysregulated student and maybe they made some decisions that weren't great, how are you gonna restore that right in the moment? So trying to equip our support staff who are boots on the ground with a lot of these students with as many tools to also help prevent any restraint or seclusion needed. So excited about that for them.
Great. Any questions for Abby or on the report? Okay, thanks. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Building and grounds.
Last week, Wednesday, Steve and I met with George Sigsworth and Ryan Pease, and we were joined by Troy Miller from LHB Architectural Firm. And the subject of conversation was a little bit of a walk and talk about our old athletic facility. We still have a football field there. We still have a track with field event settings in that area. We have a tree line, albeit it has a sizable hole in it, in that we needed to move the bleachers and press box through that hole. So we had a conversation about what's next. Clearly no decisions were made, and likely no decisions would be made during this school year. We're simply discussing what options exist. And the way I refer to it is a 0 to 100. You can do nothing, or you can entirely redesign what presently exists, or somewhere in between. We haven't, again, made any decisions. Troy was there to give us the lay of the land. He's seen a lot of facilities, and he's designed a lot of athletic areas, and he was giving us his recommendations as to what to do. Everything comes with a price tag. Unless you do nothing, then there's a much less of a price tag. And we had a good conversation about the future of that facility. And I'm not sure if you have any comments in regards to what your thoughts were.
That was most of it. Some of the stuff we talked about was removing the trees, leaving the track, or not, right? Leaving the track, or figuring out how we could get additional soccer fields there. One of the things that I brought up that's important to me is additional parking, just because I know that when we get overloaded with track and football and there's times we have multiple events, baseball going on during track season, cross country, that sometimes parking is at a premium there. But again, no decisions made. I think there was just a 10,000 foot high level conversation on potential ideas and options, and that was where we left it.
Couple of priorities that have already been articulated to me, and I'll articulate them to the public now. Football needs a place to practice. Right now they're practicing largely on the turf surface, but they can't do that if there's a soccer match that starts at 4:30, but they can't do that. Many soccer matches are played at 7, but sometimes there's a double header because you have a JV crew too. So you just can't get on the field, so they need to have a place to practice. So where we used to play our games is where they practice. Soccer needs a place to play. They have a practice field, but they largely practice on the turfed field as well. When there's football in the way, they go back to where their games used to be played. And then there's youth soccer is looking for places to set up shop too, because they're playing and practicing all over campus right now already. They're our kids. It's a booster activity. It isn't a WIAA activity, but they are our kids participating in athletics. So we have partnered with them for the longest time. So those are already articulated interests by our various athletic groups. And to concur with what Steve said, I'm not sure we have a shortage of parking, but we are always in the process of trying to find more efficient spots to locate parking so folks have better access to our venues. We're in uncharted territory. We just did this facility upgrade and we knew there'd be things, and one of the things that floated to the top of the list is how to navigate the logistics of our parking scene. We haven't figured that out entirely yet. Maybe we never will, but it's a conversation.
I do think now that some of the projects are done, and this year I'll be curious to see, like at football games, are people gonna utilize the middle school and intermediate school parking lots? There's room there, we've got access to those bleachers. I'm curious, with a year under our belts, I think some of the wrinkles will get worked out here.
Well, and remind me, Ryan made a comment about doing something in one of the parking lots where they were repainting lines or moving things around, where they were gonna pick up a handful of spots there anyway.
Yes, that's absolutely true. One thing I noticed as an observation, remember, we had to cancel our first home game last year because we simply weren't ready. We played on the road. Our first 2 home games, I remember watching folks park in the north lot by the high school, which is a great parking spot. They came in the main entry on that side of the football field. Then they walked all the way around and sat in the visitor bleachers, when they could have parked at the intermediate and been in their seat much faster and not had much parking to contend with at all. People just don't know the logistics of our setting. It's new. I get it. So I think we'll probably be better this time around than we were last time around.
And we've talked about communicating with teams that are coming to our facility. This is where you should consider parking, please tell your parents, you know, I think that'll help, you know, there's no reason a team coming from the northeast should park in the high school parking lot when you park at the middle school or the intermediate school on your way in. Plus, you're gonna have a shorter walk into the stadium than someone who parks over by the elementary.
Because we have the second access point now
Yep.
into
Fully
the, right,
going.
with the, yeah,
Full
because we didn't have that
We did not.
last year, but we do this year, so,
Right.
yeah.
But yeah, on those days where you've got football, cross country, all those things, you're gonna get those, but it's one day a year.
Right.
And so, you know, and I think we
It just
make
is what it is.
We make it happen, we grin and we bear it, and we say, you know, sorry.
Yeah.
You try to help people that struggle with
Right.
handicap access as much as you can.
Yeah, and we had conversations about that too, right? So that's
Yeah.
still an ongoing conversation. I do have a question that I left that meeting. What are they doing on the northwest side of the football fields? I saw stuff that
The
was,
wooden frame.
yeah.
I was wondering what that was too.
That's
That's
another one of
that's-
Tracy's signs.
It's her last project.
It's my very last project. It's a stadium sign,
Okay.
a large stadium sign just facing Warrior Way that just says Home of the Warriors, and then it has all of our scoreboard sponsors listed.
Okay.
Because we did not put them on the scoreboard because you can't read them if
Okay.
they're on the scoreboard.
Okay.
So we did a stadium sign. We did the same thing at the baseball field. Jorgensen Field has a new sign out there.
Yep.
And then the sponsors are in each of the gyms. So it was just
Perfect.
part of the whole scoreboard project, the final piece.
It's a big sign.
It's not a big picture of Tracy.
I think we should put one on it.
That'll be on the back. Big vinyl overlay.
I came in today, I'm like, are we building a press box? What's going on there? That's a big sign.
Which, by the way, the Jorgensen Field stuff is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good.
It turned out
We,
nice, yes.
Connie and I and Jeff Byrne, when Jeff was here, had multiple meetings. And our intent as a district, steadfast from meeting to end, is to honor the Jorgensens in the memory of the Jorgensen family and to do right by the Jorgensen family. Connie was involved in every single solitary decision, and she was and is a delight to work with. It looks beautiful, and it jumps right off that scoreboard as you drive down Minneapolis. It is really nice. I love it.
It does, and I do want to point out too that this project was a little special in kind of waving from our policy, just because some of that stuff was in the works prior to. There was a memorial bench that was ordered prior to the district purchasing that land. And that was the agreement that was brokered in the purchase of that land, is that it would always remain Jorgensen Memorial Field. That's the way it was when we purchased it. It isn't something new. And obviously, if you've been in the community any length of time, you know that. And so I do want to point out that is a very special and different project than what's ever would be or ever has been on this campus. And probably will ever be moving forward, but it was done very, very nicely, and the community, I've heard nothing but great things from the community regarding how that turned out. It was very special.
And that surface over there, those 2 softball fields are designed for softball and for youth baseball. They're basically ready to play on, and when you put youth baseball and softball on those fields from April through October are gonna be kids on those fields 3, 4, 5 nights a week.
Next summer is gonna be a game changer.
Those lights will be on a ton, and that's exactly what we want.
The only other thing is George and his crew are still working on stuff. It never
They
ends.
Yeah.
Never ends, but they do a good job.
Any update on the high school roof? Didn't we talk?
They're on it, they're literally on it.
I see they were literally on it when I
They
came
brought the
tonight.
circus truck back, it got,
I
it got
saw
everybody
that.
nervous.
That should have been on your agenda.
So that's what the truck is there, they're
Yes.
doing the work
Yeah,
that was.
that's VRC.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, anything else left on building and grounds then?
No,
Okay. Then, we'll move on to our action items, and obviously we've talked about the strategic plan, but Sean, go ahead.
So you're done with strategic plan, tabling, and I'm moving on to donations, is that what you're asking?
Nope, I mean, was there anything else that you had to add
I
about the
don't.
strategic plan? Okay.
The only thing that I will add is I did a broad brushstroke of a quick addition to one of those goal areas, but I'll bring back any suggested changes next time and you can weigh in then.
Okay.
So you can
I would
table
make
it
a
or however you
motion
need to
that
do
we
that.
table the strategic plan and talk about changes for the district side, the school
The
board
board-
side,
the
the school
board
board
goals,
side, the
yeah.
district side, I like.
I did like the, like that as well. Anyway, there's a motion to table the strategic plan until next month. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Okay, April. It's been properly moved and seconded to table the 25 through 30 strategic plan. Is there any further discussion? Steve, I agree with you. I liked the district portion of it. This was literally just a jumping off point for the board's goals, things that we've talked about. I probably expected that we might want to table some of this. I appreciate the work that was put into it, but I think we put a little more teeth into it. And as we think about things to contact Sean, we won't have another meeting per se before that happens. So obviously we can't meet together. So we'll, Sean's pretty good at wordsmithing some things based on what we have, but maybe we'll be in contact with each other in the meantime, and then we'll roll something back out at the next board meeting. Does it sound agreeable?
Yes, that's great.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of tabling the 25 to 30 strategic plan, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passed, strategic plan will be tabled. Next, moving on to donations to the district.
Polk Burnett, thank you for a $1,000 Operation Roundup grant for the Tech Ed Department to purchase cordless orbital sanders and nail guns. That's the only donation this month, but a significant one for sure.
Nice.
Make a motion, we accept the donation as presented, and thank you.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to accept the $1,000 Operation Roundup grant from Polk Burnett with many thanks. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of accepting the donation from Polk Burnett, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passed. The donation to the district is accepted with many thanks. Thanks, Polk Burnett. We love it. The Tech Ed Department's gonna love it. Moving on to personnel action.
Personnel, new employment contracts for J. Lynn Badhorse, clubhouse assistant teacher, Deborah Bond, lower elementary Montessori teacher, a long-term sub, Anthony Boucher, custodian, James Chisholm, bus driver, Casey Doughton, 8th grade volleyball assistant coach, Claire Halverson, softball assistant coach, Kristen Conder, middle school track assistant coach, Alicia Lee, library media para, Catherine Magnine for softball head coach, Carla Malave, I knew I was gonna mess it up, bus driver, Tracy Wongkit, custodian, Jacqueline Weiserman, 7th grade assistant volleyball coach, Emily Brislin, or resignation for Emily Brislin as a regular ed para, Riley Casabon Bloom, bus driver, and Taryn Hale as a custodian.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the personnel action as presented?
I will make that motion.
Steve, is there a second?
Second.
Larry, it's been properly moved and seconded to accept personnel action as presented. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Personnel action is approved, motion passed. Any community comments? They left, so that doesn't look like we're gonna have that. There's no reason to go into closed session, I believe, correct? Nothing, we've hashed all that out. All right,
Make a motion, we adjourn.
is there a second? Gwen, all right. It's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passed, meeting adjourned.